Oh my gosh, good morning and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. And I am very sorry that we are late. Gladiator Guru, say something.
Hola, mi gente, aquí con la
Okay.
Margarita.
So you're on your computer, right? You
Yes.
stayed on. Okay. So we were getting ready to come on, and I said to Gladiator Guru, I can't hear you. So we're trying to troubleshoot and figure this all out. And I realized I didn't have the volume up on my computer.
I told you it had to be something because everything was saying fine. All right, good. We're here. Tiffany Bryan, good morning.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. So I'm so sorry. This is, you know what the funny part is, we were good today. We were like we were on and ready to go right at that moment. And she's talking to me and I never thought to myself that I muted. And I don't know why I muted my computer because I was using it last night. That's why it was so odd that I because I don't remember doing it because I literally worked last night. I worked really late on a workshop and I don't remember ever turning the mute off. So my apologies. Welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. Yes, good morning, Tiffany. Good morning, Iritza. And thank you for those that were patient enough to wait. So my apologies. I am the badass Buddha and I am a dumbass this morning. No, I am somebody who just needs their coffee and needs to wake up, I guess. So with that, welcome and happy Thursday. Go ahead, Gladiator Guru.
Hola, mi gente. Aquí con la Margarita, your gladiator guru. You know what? Shit happens. Shit happens. Thank you, Iris. But yes, it is. Okay. I have my shirt that I made with Frida. I love it. The black on black. Let me tell you something. Sometimes I amaze myself because I don't follow the norm. So my shit be looking all lopsided and I'm still in love with it because that's how life is. You know, just like your eyebrows, your eyes, and your tits. They're not identical twins. They're just sisters. So love them. So good morning, Arlene, Kelly, Darlene, Kelly. Listen, we're going to have a great day today. Why?
Oh, you know what? I just realized something, Gladiator Guru. When you first got on, we were talking. You and I were talking because you asked me how Charlotte was, and then you were talking about Mateo. And then you went to stand up, and all of a sudden I lost, like it went mute. And I don't know how that would have happened. Like I must have hit, you know what? I must have hit a button on here. I guess that's so funny. That's what I
It's in the
can't believe it.
past.
So freaky.
We
Like I
cannot go
cannot
back
believe I
there.
hit that button. No, I know, but it's just so funny. I was like, wait a minute, we didn't start off with no voice. It like turned into that. Right when you showed your boobs and your shirt,
That's
I
right.
remembered that it went out at that moment, and I was like, so I must have hit something.
It's
So
always the boobies.
it's well, maybe I just got so excited at looking at your breasts again that I
You
just
know?
muted myself. And yes, look at Arlene said, so pretty. This Margie is very pretty this morning. She's very colorful.
Oh,
Loving the glasses. I
thank
love
you.
they're almost cat eye. They're slightly cat eye, and it's a very good shape for your face.
Thank you. The ones I had on Tuesday, my round ones, I went out Tuesday, ran some errands, and I couldn't wait to get home to take them off because I guess my eyes got so used to my old glasses. So I'm gonna try it with this one. But yeah, thank you for the compliments. I love them. Please stop. Tell me more. You
I'm so happy that you're humbled. I really
know
I
what?
love
That's what
it.
life is all about.
Oh my gosh. So good morning, everyone. We're very happy that you are here. Could you believe it? It is the 20th of April. I was thinking about this going, I cannot believe we have one more week left of April. This is absolutely insane. Like absolutely insane. How rapidly this is just flying by that we are already getting ready to end the fourth month of the year and ending the first month of the second quarter. It's just craziness. Um, tax day is done. That was Tuesday. Our last show was the tax deadline. I was down to the wire. I got my taxes in really late to my accountant, and bless his heart, he just went to town on them. And I dropped him off at like Sunday, and Sunday afternoon, no less. And he calls me Thursday and he says, morning, asked a couple of questions, then calls me Thursday night at 8 and says, I could hit send. I just need a couple of verbal, okays, and just call me back or else I'm gonna have to do an extension. And I called him back. I said, yep, go ahead. And then that was that. So I still got
I don't even know. I handed mine in late, so I don't even know if they were done. And I'm like, do you know there's so much going on about the IRS and all this kind of stuff, and there's really no legal document how we had to pay into it. And I said, I don't have time to research that shit, but it sure seems good if it's true and they've got us all these years, But yeah, I mean, it's a puppets game. We hang on their strings and they tell us where to go, by what day, by what deadline hour. So yeah, this is what we do. It's what we've become. Viva la revolución. That's what we got to be thinking about. Shit.
Well, we should. At least at the very least, be aware and be prepared. Hey, look at Janet is on this morning. Good morning, Janet. And good morning, Jessica.
Good morning.
Wonderful, wonderful. So happy that you're here. And we love seeing people come on from YouTube because it's not a popular channel. We're not popular on YouTube, so we don't have a lot of people come on from YouTube. So we do appreciate that. And please don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe. That really is very helpful. Share, if something really connects with you, share it, let people know, hey, wow, I watched this show today and they had some really good pointers, and check them out. We would love for you to do that. So thank you so much for those that do that are. So what do we say, Gladiator Guru? You want to get started and
let's get started. And Innate, and today's conversation is going to be really good, but let's do the mantra and intentions, and then we'll go back to something that just is a reminder. Dale.
So let's set our intention for today, as always, on Viva Cafe con Leche. So be intentional. Go about your day with intention, and
do it in gratitude. Be intentionally grateful. Every day you leave your house and handle all your business, I don't care how many irate people you meet, how many just whatever types of people, and you make it home that evening, that's gratitude. No matter what kind of day you had, you left your home, anything could have happened, but you returned safely.
And there's always something to be grateful for. Even if you had like the crappiest day, there is always something to be grateful for. And when you get really good at gratitude, even the bad stuff you're grateful for, because you realize that you learned something from it. You're going to do something differently. So gratitude is it's one of those things that's talked about a lot, but we've talked about this on the show, that people they talk about it. It's the catch-all thing, but people still don't quite really understand it. So get to know it. It's easy. It's really not hard to do. It's only hard to do when you make it hard, just like anything, I suppose, right? It's us gets in the way. Okay. So let's do our mantra. Say it loud, say it proud. And here we go. I am a disruptor.
I am a disruptor.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am spiritually grounded.
I am spiritually grounded.
I am magically orgasmic.
Ole.
And I keep it real.
All day, no doubt. Because if you don't walk
oh my
in
God, I want to tell you something funny. Whenever I think of magically orgasmic, of course, I mean, my head goes in a gazillion different ways. But then I always think of like the one individual that we both agree assists in us being magically orgasmic, and that's our wonderful friend and fan favorite, Ephraim. And it was funny because yesterday I don't know. I don't know why he came into the conversation. Oh, I know. My mother was talking about, she found this whole bunch of money in my dad's drawers of like foreign money. She's like, I don't know what to do with it. She's like, I've got, there's Italian liras, like old money, before the euro. And she's like, I even have money from Brazil when he was in Brazil. Now, my father has not been in Brazil since he was in the service, he was in his 20s. So this money is like really old. So I said, well, I only know, I mean, I know a few Brazilian people, but he popped up. I said, well, I have a friend that's Brazilian. He goes back there, back and forth, on occasion. I said, maybe we'll give him the money, right? So we get to talking about him. So I start telling her about him, and I realized that it's so much fun to talk about him, and I love that when there's people in your life that is fun to talk about. Like I have fun talking about you. I have fun talking about certain other people in my life, like, and I don't want to start naming off names because then I'll leave somebody out and then somebody's gonna go, I'm not fun to talk about. But it brings up certain emotions. It brings up certain like feelings within you, like this like inner stuff. And when it's good stuff, it's so nice because so often we focus on the crap stuff, the people that trigger us or the people that piss us off. And then we need to pull away from that, So I'm telling her about him. And I said, oh, you don't understand. I said, this guy is so sexy. It's ridiculous. And my mother, I think, was getting a kick out of the fact that I was saying that. Like here's my 86-year-old mother going, really? Really? Is he single? I said, yes, he is. And I felt like saying, why? You want to know, Ma, for you? Like, is he single for you? I know she meant for me, but it was just so cute. But it was so nice to bring out that magically orgasmic feeling in me as I was talking about him, and other people, and it doesn't have to be men. It could be women as well. I feel magically orgasmic when I talk about you. Glad.
Thank you. And I think, when I came up with that word, that's when I had Watermark podcast with Byron. And we used to go over some stuff. And then but it was never about sex. So I'm glad you made that out. I'm glad that when you said you have done that, that you think about certain people, because that is exactly what magically orgasmic is. It's that feeling you get. It's that euphoric feeling, that excitement that makes you tingle all over. But it's a thought, it's a joy, it's a happiness, it's a eye candy, it's a thought that's provoking something like that. But it's so many things in one that it's all brilliant, I think, because it right away somebody with lack of imagination would think it's totally only sex, and sex is just sex. Anybody can do sex. How many people can make love? So so keep that one in mind. Lydia, how are you? Haven't forgotten you, ladies. Mucho doctor's visits. Listen to you at night. Oh, every time that any of you guys say that, I mean, it's good to have you live with us, but it's also phenomenal to know that throughout your busy schedule, you still pencil
Yes.
us in at your convenience, because then you have no interruption, and that still matters. That still matters as if you joined us live. So gracias y pa'lante.
That is, and absolutely, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. So this is a really great conversation. We're continuing with our month of capability, understanding, and capabilities, and we've been talking a lot about emotion. We've been talking a lot about what did we talk about in that set? I have to look. We just talked about this on Tuesday. So Tuesday was resiliency. I don't know why I forgot that one because that was such a favorite of mine. But today we're talking about innate abilities. And it's interesting because I actually did some, I looked up some stuff and I printed it out. And I was actually a little pleasant, or I was a little surprised, not pleasantly. I had no emotion to it, but I was a little surprised because my understanding of innate abilities was actually a little bit more limited. What I thought to be innate actually was some of them were actually learned. They were acquired abilities. And so I had to dive a little deeper and really focus on the stuff that's specifically innate, because the term innate became very popular, especially in the throes of the self help movement, especially in the late 80s, where a lot of these people like Tony Robbins would talk about the innate qualities of a person and that we don't tap into it, and blah blah blah. And then being a chiropractor, being a chiropractor that's considered what's called like an old school chiropractic philosophy. They talk a lot about innate intelligence of the body, meaning the body's innate wisdom, the ability for the body to do what it needs to do because it already knows what to do. It's inborn. It was something that you were born with. So like healing and alerting you to problems, pain, things like that. Those are all innate. That's innate intelligence of the body telling you the thought provoking piece of yourself that things are going on. So there's what we wanted to do though is talk about what you do know, whether the term is specifically innate or if it's something that you acquired in your growing and learning, but it's so deep set within you that it can be automatic. And they could be good or bad, but we want to focus on your really good deep set qualities, again, whether they were inborn or learned, because that's what you really want to emphasize, because we don't give ourselves credit for things sometimes, and we need to be done with that story.
Well, I think that story starts when you shut out the world and the many different opinions. So our biggest mistake is we know what we need to do, but we'll still ask five other people. And then we spend so much time dissecting or following what they said that then we lose what we need to do. And that innate ability is the ability to make, to just step into your decisive life. But sometimes we have that ability because we all do. It's a gift from God. We all have that ability that when our body speaks to us, it's as if it's audible, but it's just it allows us to feel it, but it's speaking to us because we respond with, ow, oh my God, what's wrong? We respond to it. Okay. But we don't ever take the time out to treat it as such, to treat it as if it's important in our life. So that ability for us to listen, like the chiropractors say, like who else you mentioned, Tony Robbins. I think you have to understand that it is your God given gift to speak the language of the soul. And by doing that,
Mm.
when your body is speaking to you about certain things, pay attention. But we don't. Whenever we get a gut feeling, we know it, we feel it, our body tingles or it retracts, danger or excitement, right? Why do you got to take that and call everybody knowing that some of them are never in agreement with what you do because they stay stagnant in their life where you're always taking the leap of faith. So there's people that, those crabs in the bucket. So I think the innate ability right now, I don't care what we've done in our past, is to start paying attention to who the hell you are. Start listening to the brilliance that is you.
Mm.
Because if not, you're going to always be sharing your goals with people who have no visions, and they are going to talk you out of your purpose. And then you're going to be
Right.
sitting there at our age, right? Or older, and wonder, where did life go? What do you mean, where did it go? You gave it away. You gave it away by not trusting. There's this karma, and some people are like, "Oh, I don't believe in karma. That's Hindu, that's Buddhism." They want to put a label on everything. But in Spanish they have lo que cosecha, lo que sembra se cosecha, meaning whatever you reap what you sow. Same thing as karma. You don't pass through this life. You live this life however you think you can, and then your debt is collected before your last breath. So the thing is that, this innate ability to understand who you are, grasp it, and then learn who you are. Don't wait to somebody to teach you. Get to know yourself. That is also the resilience to not give up on yourself, and then to Just come here and say, why haven't you given up on yourself? And then to have that innate ability to say, I'm all I have. At the end of the day, I'm all I have. Why would I give up? That's the resilience of me believing in who I am, with the latter being the most important, the I am. Go ahead.
So let's talk about some of the stuff that I looked up. So two types of innate, and there's a lot of you look up one thing and it'll say one thing, and you look up something else and it'll say a little bit extra. So I just kind of included everything. And like I said, there's like a fine line between what is considered innate and what is considered acquired or learned. So two types of innate behaviors, we have instinct and reflex. Instinct, by definition, is an inborn pattern of behavior that is is characteristic of a species that is often a response to a specific environmental stimuli. It is a powerful motivation or impulse or an innate capability or aptitude. Reflex is an automatic and often inborn response to stimulus that typically involves nerve impulses. So they get really sciencey with that one. So like a knee-jerk reflex, they're protective. Reflexes, like a knee-jerk reflex, the reason the doctor does that is testing to see if your muscles react. That one, actually, the knee-jerk reflex prevents you from falling. You know, if like your leg giving out, and then you reflexively pull it back up and tighten. So we categorize innate abilities or behaviors into two types. However, we'll go further. So human instincts include things like seeking, anger, fear, panic, grief, care, pleasure, lust, and play. Innate behaviors in humans can include things like courtship and sexual behavior. So some of these will repeat. Escape and defensive maneuvers and aggression. Innate behaviors develop without external stimuli, meaning they're implanted within you. You automatically react, even if you've never experienced it before. So like a startle, like babies have what's called a startle reflex. They'll startle, they'll when a loud sound comes about, and then that will in turn become a learned behavior where they may distinguish then, well, that's not something to really be startled at, but other things might. Innate psychological needs, we have a need for autonomy, we have a need for competence, and we have a need for relatedness. For innate things are instinct, imprinting, conditioning, and imitation. Innate humans have four fundamental biological drives: acquiring, bonding, learning, and defending. Now, why are drives important? Because the drive is an innate, like an internal thing that's pushing you forward. So we often are pushed forward by the need to acquire things, the need to bond, the need to learn, and the need to defend. So you see how some of these are repeating themselves. And the last thing I'll say here is innate qualities include intelligence. Like we're all born with intelligence. Like we all have it within us to learn. Creativity, empathy, conscientiousness, emotional stability, introversion, and even extroversion, a need for belonging, resiliency, which is what you were mentioning before, Gladiator Guru, curiosity, impulsiveness, and a positive outlook. Now, with those qualities, we're born with those. It's automatic, but they also can be learned. And at the same time, they can be unlearned. So in other words, empathy is natural, but we can learn to be apathetic, but we can also learn to be more empathetic. And it just depends on, how the child is raised, the environment they're in, their relationship with certain people in their lives, people that, if they're, like I know when you've often talked about Gladiator Guru about your childhood was tough, and while your dad taught you to be very tough, to stand up for yourself, he also had this other side of him that was very philosophical, very nurturing, very soft. And he allowed that side to be seen with you and, and your sisters, where maybe he didn't let that be seen with other people. And that was a connection there, so it it allowed you to tap into empathy as well as your sisters. Your mother was always like the life of the party, throwing the parties, inviting people over, very outgoing, very open. And it's these things that we decide what works for us depending upon how we're raised and also the traumas that we've gone through. But they're there. So in other words, if we become apathetic as we get older, if we could tap into the cause of the apathy, we could reestablish our connection with our empathy.
I think, yeah, you're right. I think a lot of
Did
people.
I sound all like psychological and sciencey? Did I? I was surprised myself. I'm listening to this going, wow, I almost sound like I'm intelligent. I know what I'm talking about.
But yeah, and all that's good. And if listen, I think to be able to have innate ability, it's just following intuition. It's mind, body, soul. It's feeding that mind, body, spirit to connect with your soul. And it's true, you can be raised in different circumstances and not, have that empathy that's part of your DNA, but then you're not living in empathy. You're living in horrible situations. You're raised by whomever that didn't teach you that. Or then you have that overbearing helicopter mom that just fills you with so much empathy, you're afraid to look in the mirror. And then, then you can have it at a good dosage, and then life happens and you can become desensitized. And so I think this conversation is important to me because intuition, what does it mean? It's literally means that you're learning from within. And like I said earlier, we get so accustomed to not cultivating that self-trust, self-belief, self-honor that leads to self-love, that we put it out there for everyone else to decide our lives. And then we start trudging through life thinking that we're not worthy, we're not enough, nobody calls that, and that it's a one woman or one person show. You created yourself. You're the script writer, the director, the set person. You created the set behind you, and then you wonder why this is it. Well, you know what? It's all of us is. It's a sense. It's one of the six senses that you have. So I think that when you're feeling, as Laura was saying, you can have all of this. that- I believe that. I believe that you are who you walk in your path to be. You have everything you need. What happens is you become a people pleaser. You become codependent on a man. So then you start doing what you think he wants you to do in order for him to love you. You lose the hell out of yourself. And so it happens, all these steps. And that's just life. And I just mentioned a few, yeah, my sister's on. I wonder if she's still on, but we did, she's 3 years younger than me. And my other one is 5 years younger. And if you sit down and listen to all our stories, you swear to God we were born and raised in different households.
Yeah.
Because the stories we'll tell about the trauma, drama, and pain are different.
Yeah.
Like Janet, for instance, I'm gonna call you out, sis. She really doesn't have a lot of traumatic childhood experiences with the parents, and the step parents. But you hear a lot of things. Like I've been hearing a lot of things, watching a lot of things that say they're going against what I believe in. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong. Um, they're just saying, oh, people said that my trauma made me stronger, but blah blah blah. And half the time I don't listen to it because you're denying something without. I'm not saying I needed that trauma in my life to make me intuitive the way I am, to make me more sensitive to listening to that inner voice. I'm not saying none of that. Everybody's different. If I had to go back and change anything in my life, I wouldn't. Because I believe that every darkness, every deep valley that I walked through only made me appreciate the finer things in life, which is like the sunlight.
But I'm going to tell you though, the difference is though, when you said my trauma, and I'm not saying you're saying people say this, my trauma made me stronger. You may find that to be true to you. And other people can say that. But oftentimes we know that trauma can actually completely devastate a person. It completely throws them off
Why?
the game. Well, that's what I'm saying. It
But
all
how is
that
that
all comes,
person?
but that all comes to the belief system, which we'll talk about next month. But it's what I'm saying is we all start out the same. We all start out with the same set of tools and the same, utensil, whatever way you want to look at it. When we're born, we're all the same. It's everything that happens to us. Like we all have the same abilities. We all have the same, like if you take 10 babies that are the same exact age from different parts of the world, but you put them together, doesn't matter their culture, doesn't matter their race, doesn't matter nothing, and you raise them with the same opportunities, they all have the potential to be, incredible. Like if you're giving them everything that they need, it's trauma-free environment, they're very encouraged, like all this beautiful stuff. They have the innate ability to move forward. There's also genetic, like legacy, but this is something that's even deeper, is legacy things that have been inherited that also can prevent them. So like resilience, some of these babies might be more resilient than other babies, but the resilience is there. So, but as we get older, some of them might need more encouragement. If they all have the same exact encouragement, then that doesn't mean they're all going to be successful. But we all have the same abilities. We just, as we get older, we're raised a certain way. We start to believe certain things, and then that sidelines us. So for some, the trauma becomes, that made me stronger. What doesn't kill us makes me stronger. They have a very good sense, that warrior mentality, that gladiator mentality. Whereas the other ones are like complete victims, completely incapable of doing what they need to do because of what happened to them.
Now, I have a question for you, Miss Philosophical Woman, today. Is that a choice? Can't be an upbringing. I think people choose not to look at a brighter side. I mean, with all this mind shifting, mind setting, life coaching, is that not what they're trying to say? I think people choose to be a victim. People choose to stay stuck in their trauma. People choose to climb that mountain. People choose to say, I forgive just so that I can let go. Go ahead.
But I don't think the choice is always conscious, though. I think it could be subconscious.
But it's there. That's my question.
Well, it's the same.
People don't make the choice.
But you could choose to be tough. You could choose to be angry about a situation. You're not playing the victim. You can't have one and not.
No, I don't get it, because people choose. You choose to stay in the victim mentality, or you choose to figure out how to get the fuck out of it. That's what I'm saying. It's like you have a choice. Everybody has a choice with every single thing in our lives. I'm choosing not to get up and walk every day, so I cannot complain why I feel like I'm not losing any weight. What I'm saying is that, is there, like, what is a person missing that doesn't have them make the change, especially when there's so much information out there, when there's so many different people they meet, that one can be stuck, one can be.
It's a belief. It's all about belief. That's what it is.
That's what I'm saying. There's really no trauma childhood being this, exactly what you said. I think when we choose not to want to hear what's the right way to do things, or not to want to hear the options that are out in the world, that we can choose from the different plates to feed our souls, is what I'm saying. The innate ability to choose for self is what I'm talking about.
Well, it's the innate ability to move forward. It's the innate ability to survive. It's the innate ability to know that you have the ability to do things.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's the same across the board. It's the belief system that comes in, because you can have the belief that I'm going to push forward through this trauma or the situation that happened to me, but you can do it either with a good sense, like happy, like optimism, or you could be pissed off. I mean, because so all of that's belief. So you could either play the victim. So the one end is the victim, where they just give up. They just plop to the ground and they're in that like fear mode. but the total opposite, where they're just angry at the world, and they'll say nobody's ever going to take me again, and nobody's going to take advantage of me again, and I'm just going to fight everybody. Those are all beliefs. Both of them are not wrong for that person, but they're beliefs. So it's we have to understand that we do have the ability to move forward. We do have the ability to get over things.
Okay, so with that, I want to ask, since it's a choice, it's a belief, we have the ability to forge forward, no matter how hot the fire was, as you spoke last week about the hot coals,
Yep.
thinking it's moss, right? To forge forward, or you have the ability to stay where you are and blame everybody around you. And then, so when you were talking about a child, when they're raised, innate abilities is, you're right, a lot of it is something we are born with. That's gift, and we're all talented. It's where we apply our time and efforts in, correct?
Sure.
Like fear is transferred. Fear is fed into our children. And then they grow to have their fear and our fear, and then the fear. Years ago, when I had the podcast, Byron and I were doing some research on fears, and because we had this show coming up, and they said that that children, although they're playing or doing their homework or coloring or whatever, eating ice cream, they're listening to what you're talking, and by the age of 7, they have acquired all the fears that they've listened their parents speak on.
By age 7, you have created your personality, which includes all of that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So then now you're a teenager. You're stressing over exams and this and sports and girls and boys and all this, and then you have this umbrella pouring down all the fears of your parents. So what I'm saying is, yeah, you have to. It's also teaching our children from a young age discernment. Like, okay, I'm not going to worry about that, and I'm not going to feel guilty. I'm going to choose my path because that's not mine. And I think that the innate ability to, as you did in the beginning, to explain something, sometimes people just need to travel down the wordsmith highway at times. They need to hear it in order to connect it with what they're feeling. And I think we need to be those people in anybody's life, right, Alicia? We need to know if something needs to be said, to speak on it, especially in front of people who are, what's this word?
Flowing?
No, flowy is a positive word. They're in a boat, they're hitting waves, and instead of trying to maneuver it, they're just ducking down. So you got that. I don't know. Maybe I should, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not going to be good at it. And you're like, shut the fuck up. What do you want to do?
That's that indecisiveness, that back and forth.
Yeah, but they want to do it.
Dissonance.
Because they believe in themselves, right? They don't have that innate ability to say, I am enough. If I put,
but that's just it. They do have the innate ability. It's their head is overriding the innate ability.
And when you do that for 30, 40 years, then you might as well have kissed that ability goodbye because you never used it. So do you really have it? You know it exists, but have you really put it into effect?
Yeah,
and I think that, right?
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that you have it, but we believe that we don't have it, that we've for 30 to 40 years, I've been this blah, blah, blah. But it's you have to let go of all that bullshit that got in the way of the innate abilities. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, think of a baby. You always have to think of a baby. Babies love no matter what. They want to be cuddled. They want to love. They don't discriminate. They don't care who. But now what's interesting is some babies will be more inclined to want to cuddle and love on certain people. And then we get all fussy, like we're like, oh, well, why do they want to go to their father more than me? Like this is the mom or something like that. But babies there's a reason they're choosing those people. There's something about them. But then all of a sudden we get a little older and we're like particular, like we've our belief system, our fears, our whatever start to get into the mix. And then we start to like be more judgmental, not discerning, more judgmental on what we do. So so I always go back to the babies. Like I always think of infants, like anywhere between the age of like 0 to a year, depending on what I'm thinking about. But their drive is very internally motivated. They automatically do, and it's us that puts, like you said, they hear things. Not only do they hear things, they watch body language. They watch how we interact with other people, and there's no doubt in my mind that they feel energy, and as a result they will start to be a certain way. And you can even go even deeper, that when you're pregnant and if you're going through some stuff, that is being pushed into the baby before they're even born, so that they come out with some of that crap. They might not quite understand it, but why is it that some babies are really fearful when they're first born and very clingy, and then some are just as relaxed as can be? Because
This
it
is
has
true.
to do with what we were pumping into them while we were pregnant with them.
A baby can see angels. A baby can see things. A baby speaks with angels. A baby feels your energy. That's why some babies, you'll pick them up and they'll cry like hell. And the minute you hand them over, they're relax. What are you bringing? When you come in, what's your energy level like? They do feel that. I think that this the when babies are born, they are angels up until they reach a certain age. I said 3 or 4. Like, you can ask them questions and they can answer you and blow you away. But then, by the age of 4 or 5, they'll start becoming more human. And I think we can learn, if we can learn anything, learn it from the babes. And yeah, energy is everything. Energy is that innate intuitive gift that we have been given, and we, so half of us do nothing with it because we don't even trust in ourselves. Hola, Maria de Pilar. Hi, Sylvia. And I think that when we believe, when we create this, not idea, when we just create this knowing that everything is possible. Are you going to wake up tomorrow and be a millionaire? No, because you got to work on it. Nobody gets somewhere.
You had to buy a ticket.
You know,
You
so
can't, that's a joke, actually. That's one of those jokes.
yeah,
You got to
so
buy
I
a ticket if you want to
gotta
be a
buy a
millionaire.
ticket. And some of us learned as children. Yeah. And I just watched a movie. It was a quick series the other day. I'm sitting here painting and I'm having it. It's called Florida Man on Netflix. And it's older. He went into gambling, lost his job as a detective, blah, 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 blah. So has to go back to Florida. He hates it, hates his father. He's in a, they're trying to prove they were somewhere. So they go to this Al Anon meeting, and he starts talking and he's like, yeah, blah blah, and he's expressing how his mother died and he knows his father has something to do with it because he always saved his gun, blah blah blah. And then the father goes, and now everybody's looking like, oh shit, I think they're related, right? Because people are like slow with it. And he explains how the mother was in such dire pain that she asked him to do it and he couldn't, so he made sure not to lock the gun away that time. And the guy's like, well, I came home to her. He goes, well, you were supposed to be in practice till dark. Like, it cleared up like 30 years of resentment, of anger, of hurt. And that's what people just need to talk, not at the person, but to the person. And that's also an innate ability, is it not, Lori?
Right.
Because I had to learn that. I'm still learning, but sometimes it comes out really good and I'd be like, and sometimes I'm like, fuck. To listen, to, to, to speak, to not to reply. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Before I was like people talking, then I responded. Now I want to listen to feel what they're saying. Then to make the wise choice, the wise decision, should I respond or should I just let the words just settle there? And that has been very amazing. And sometimes it's so beautiful because we both learned something by nothing being said. So
Amen
yes,
to that.
that's it, Sylvia. And so that, I think, when we need to heal, and if somebody entrusts us with their experience through conversation, Sometimes we don't need to say, oh, I read a book about this, or I went through this, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just let them talk, because their own voice is going to be that intuition that's going to wake up something in them, that their own voice coming back is going to be that aha moment that we all have. We're the beacon of light towards everybody. So sometimes it's hard for us to see ourselves shining and basking, because we are that light that shines out to the world. But we have it inside of us, that innate ability to know right from wrong, and maybe. We can't
Well,
forget the maybe. It's like white, black with the gray areas. That yes, no, and maybe is always in the middle. Maybe I'm gonna do this now. Maybe I should wait. Go ahead.
I think that, again, it's about how we're how we're raised, but then also how we raise ourselves once we raise ourselves. Like we start raising ourselves early on, and we're not talking adulthood, we're talking about childhood. We decide, whether consciously or subconsciously, that this is how it's going to be, this is how we are. And it's interesting is that we keep doing that for many years until something really sets us into a different trajectory in adulthood. That's why a lot of people make very big changes in their lives when something massive happens. It's like little things in their life. It wasn't enough, but something like for me, it was that massive, like, depressive episode, like almost killing myself. That was the wake up call. I had a depressive episode when I was in my 20s, but it wasn't that bad. And this was the one that did it. You have people that eat like crap. They're taking meds. They keep saying, oh, I don't want to be on these meds. I got to eat a better diet, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden they have the heart attack and they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't
wake up.
Exactly. But then there's some that don't, some that will never. They're like, well, you know what? I'll do it. I'll start it tomorrow. But we all have this innate ability to be something beyond. We have incredible potential. But so what's the difference between the person that had the heart attack and had the wake up call versus the person who had the heart attack and just kept going on with the way they were living? It's always about belief, right? And again, we're going to get deeper into belief, but they're the same people. They have the same set of abilities. It's just that one decided to change their belief because they said, okay, this shit's not working anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. This did not do well for me. And this other one just said, why bother? I really like what I'm eating. I don't want to stop. They made every excuse in the book. And so it does come back to what you're saying. It's the choice. But some don't understand why they make the choice. Some will know, like me. Like I go back to my weight and I know better. Talk about that. I always say, Angelo had a famous quote, the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better. I know better. I have so much education behind me that I could hit every single piece of it to say why you can't eat this, why this is not good for you to eat, why you should eat less, blah, blah, blah. But yet there's this piece of me that still is not willing to let go of some crap that needs to be let go of. And my goal is by the end of this year to be fully relieved of that piece, because I'm done. I'm like really tired of that piece. I have an inner battle with that piece all the time. I know what I'm capable of. I know my innate abilities. I'm capable of losing this weight. I'm capable of having a very strong body. I don't give a shit if I'm 53 years old or 63 or 73. I'm capable because that is how we're built. Our bodies are much stronger physically than we ever give it credit for. Our bodies are not meant to get pains when you get to be a certain age. Oh, well, I'm over a certain age.
Yes.
No, that's just because you haven't taken care of it. It's telling you something. So I understand my abilities. Now it's a matter of me aligning with all these other pieces that have thrown that innate ability away, like, oh, out the door. Oh yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that. Aligning with myself and saying, okay, I'm done with that conversation. I'm done with that conversation. Let's do this.
Exactly. You hit a lot of key points. Like, I just wanted to read something. Alicia wrote something. And Alicia's gifted, but sometimes again we forget. And she wrote how, um,
This one?
yeah, you know, you said my name and I woke up from a nightmare. I took it as my fear of taking a leap of things I want to do, change of leaving my job and taking the leap to believe in myself. And sometimes it'll come at the weirdest time. Like you could be cleaning your toilet and you're like, I gotta do this, I'm gonna do it. And you know what? And
True.
that's your intuition. That's when it has your full attention. You're scrubbing the toilet. I think that whenever you hear that inner voice of you and it's demanding, stop, write it down, see what you get out of it. I think that when we are ready to believe in ourselves, I hear a lot of people say, I believe in God, I believe in a higher power. And then they're asked a question, they're like, oh, I don't believe I could do that. And I think that when you decide or when you believe in yourself, then see, I don't say I believe in God, I know God. I had a great conversation with him last night and I thanked him because for some reason it was like a movie hit and rewind. And I just went to all my dark places since the age of 6. And I came forward and there was nothing for me to say but to say thank you for holding my hand in their dark alley. Because I know that I was never alone. And that is why, see, I don't brag, oh, I went through this and I'm not a victim. I cannot tell you how I can speak of the things and not break down, cry, or live in fear. All I can tell you is there's a knowing that there was something bigger than me walking with me. Didn't make me go through that, but made me realize that I wasn't alone in those moments. And I think when you know yourself enough to know that you were not born on accident, which means you have every right to own those joyous moments. You have every right to own your thoughts and your feelings to say, I'm better than this. I can do better than I did last year. I need to shed this old, scarred, wounded skin and walk into my purpose. I think to have that innate ability to know that you were not here because it was an oopsie. I tell my kids all the time they were both accidents, but I couldn't live my life
All
right
three of
now
my
without
kids
them.
were.
You
All
know,
three of my
so
kids were.
and it's a joke, and sometimes they'll like they never got offended because I'm their mother and they know who the hell I am. But just like God, Yahweh gave us free will to choose whether we were going to believe in knowing that Jesus Christ is the Messiah or not, then that's how we are with ourselves. So if you don't have the will to believe in your innate intuitions and the abilities that are there waiting for you to either tap into it, embrace it, or to just say, okay, we're ready to go again, pack your bags because you've always had it, then do not blame anyone outside of you for living a good life. Do not build that jealousy and envy because somebody can do something you did not dare to try, because somebody is successful in something you thought of, but then hushed yourself, telling yourself you're not worthy to do that, or you don't have the skills or the talent to do that. And now you're envious and jealous of someone else. Because guess what? When you're not living in your purpose, in it, when you're not looking in the mirror and seeing the abilities, that reflection, and smiling because you are just as magnificent as anyone outside of you, then please do not build envy and jealousy and hate, because that road only takes you in the opposite direction of where are you,
Yes, for
what is
sure.
you.
And you
And
have to
then everything
recognize that.
becomes a blame game. And Iritza, this is how people remain victims, because it's everybody else's fault. Because if it wasn't for me growing up in the projects, I would have had this. Or if you didn't tuck us away in such a close knit thing, I wouldn't have been shied away from what's happening in the world. It's, you know what, you're never gonna win that situation.
Mm-mm.
People need to love themselves and even if you don't believe you do, like yourself enough to learn who you are until that love flourishes and
And
blooms like a botanical garden.
and the reality is, because you did to ask, she says, what if, so what do you tell people that chose to stay a victim? Nothing. You can't. People there, some people understand their victimhood and they own it like a badge of honor. Some people will deny their victimhood till the bitter end, and the people on the outside can see it, that they totally play that role, especially when it's that lack of accountability. And you can't. The only thing you can do is provide information. You cannot force anybody to do something that they're not ready to do or willing to do.
No.
It's just like, you could take the expression, you could take the horse to water, but you cannot make them drink. You can take that water and shove it into the horse's mouth, but unless that horse is actually going to suck that water in, then they're not going to do anything with it. And we can't. It's like we have to just keep growing ourselves and keep providing information, and at some point somebody's going to receive it. But we also have to understand that that might not be their path, and they may never receive it, and they may actually, and in certain situations it could be the worst case of the worst scenario happens, which I'm not going to say, but you understand what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate because they leave a wake behind them with the people that love and care about them. But this is one thing I've learned, like, I've learned to let go of people, especially when they choose to be self-destructive, when they choose to make choices that are not healthy for them. And because I'm not going to be sucked into that. And some people view it as being apathetic. The irony is I've always been a very empathetic person. I've always been worried about everything and concerned about people and blah blah blah. The result was, it took away me. It took away my soul and my spirit, and then left me apathetic towards other situations. So I started to realize that in order for me to really grow and love my empathy and nurture it, is to put it in the direction of people that are going to be able to utilize it.
Mhm.
It might be judgmental in that way, but it's not initially, it's always open to anybody. But when I start to see that they're not taking responsibility for themselves, then I pull back the empathy for them, because I want to shove it to somebody who's really going to take it and run with it and say, "Oh my God, thank you. I really needed that." Because it's it's almost like they suck it, they suck it. And my innate ability now is to be able to recognize that we all have the ability to recognize ourselves, who we are, our connection with a higher power, our grounding. We all have the innate ability, but yet we've let it go because we're focused too much on the exterior and what's right in front of us, and the surface, like the what's the word I'm looking for? It's the superficial. I'm not talking about superficial in the sense of materialism, but that can be. But it's the superficial, the stuff that's right in front of us, that we can touch, that we could see, and not stepping beyond. And I think for me, the getting back into understanding my innate abilities really has set me on a course of, I'm right there with what Sylvia wrote here, is that
Mhm.
holding compassion for those who choose victimhood. I have to admit, victimhood really gets on my goat sometimes. Like, I really get pissed off with it. And partially it's because I played the victim for quite a while. And I'm learning to let go of that piece and be more empathetic. But at the same time, giving that person the ability to pull themselves out. And if they don't, I move on to the next person. I don't judge that person with their victimhood, but I'm not playing into your victimhood. That's what I've learned, because I just want to be a person who sees beyond, understands the connection, and that's the innate quality that I've had in me all along. And for whatever reason, I'm not going to make excuses or blame. For whatever reason, in my childhood and young adulthood, I felt that that was not a good situation, and it wasn't. I wasn't worthy, and I stuffed it. And I don't do that anymore.
Good. I I don't with my experience, people who want to be a victim, that's their journey. Just don't bring that shit to me. You know what? I'll hear you out. Lately, what I've been doing, and there's two people that I work with that I found that what I ask them, I'll listen to them and I'm gritting my teeth because there's so much I want to say, right? Because anyone who knows me knows I do not lack for words. And all I've been saying lately is what I wrote in my journal, which is something that I listen to them and then I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna keep going. Like, do I tell them to shut up or I don't want to hear or excuse myself, whatever? So I cut them off and I just say, but tell me, with everything you just described about how you feel about everything outside of you, can you honestly answer to me, are you happy? Are you happy? One, are you happy with your belief system? And are you happy knowing that you left part of you way down the road when all these excuses got in the way? So the other one has been calling me, just general conversation. Or when I'm at work, like lately, she would always come after 11. She's before there now. And what happens is, you know what? It's not, that's my empathy towards them. I put it back on them.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful because look, you okay, think about this for a minute. You obviously triggered by those questions, you triggered something within her that now she wants more. And the beauty is, and it's to be applauded because she is understanding her potential. She's understanding her innate abilities, and she's now you opened it up just a little bit to where there's light coming through, and she's like, oh my God, wait, I can't open it any longer. I need more information to figure this out. You planted a seed. And the
Exactly.
thing is that seeds grow when the environment is good. Our innate abilities allowed those seeds to grow. We could have been anything we wanted to be when we were children. We had the abilities to do it. Don't tell me that when you were a child, that somebody who became an astronaut had more abilities than you did. No, they just had a different drive. They were more interested in that. But if again, it's like we're human, we're all built the same
Yeah,
way. So if somebody's
absolutely.
that, then somebody's this and somebody's that. The only difference was what they believed themselves to be. It was that they took that innate wisdom. That's watch children. Because children, they think they could do anything. It's us adults that fuck them up. It's us adults that sit there and say, "Oh, you don't want to be that. You can't be that." Or they put their own things on. And I've caught myself so many times with my children, making sure that I who am I? Like, who the hell am I to know? Like, seriously,
It's
like,
it's
who am
funny though,
I?
right? I
My
think
older,
that.
but it was about
Mhm.
tracking and revamping with my older, but my younger one, she's still pliable. So it's like I'm always very mindful about that because I want her to understand her capabilities. I don't want her to be afraid. Fear is a natural instinct, but fear of like walking outside and there's you walk outside and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get hit by a car when I cross the street. But if you're looking both ways and there's no car, the likelihood of you getting hit by the car, it's not gonna happen. There's always that likelihood, but that's the fear. And that's from learned things. That innate fear
It
is
is.
fine, but that learned fear is the worst.
And the shared fear from a parent to a child is the worst. That's paralyzing to your child. So people need to check themselves at the door. And would I ever win, even now, even if when my obituary is written, am I ever gonna win Mother of the Year award plaques?
I know,
Hell
I
no.
know.
Hell no.
I say that all the time to myself. Mother, when I forget something, I'm like, oh, Mother of the Year.
Not happening. And like when my children and I get together, now mind you, next month, this month, at the end of this month, my baby will turn 33, and next month my oldest will turn 37, but they're still my babies. But when we get together, it's like they both jack up. But when Tiffany was about 10, she's like, I want to swim. I want to swim. And I brought him here to Florida to Disney. She kept bothering me, she's like, how am I going to learn how to swim? I said, everybody knows how to swim. You just got to be put in that situation. And I just like threw her in the deep end of the pool at the hotel. And she's like, she goes, you almost killed me. I said, but you learned how to swim. If not, you would have been like, oh, I want to, and never did it. Now you know you got to dive in and pick it up as it comes. And my son would just stay stuck on the stairs, holding on to the when you're walking into the pool, they have the steps and those poles, holding on. He was afraid of everything. And but I couldn't like really get through to him like with Tiff, but people are different and you treat
Yes.
them. You never shortchange who you are. You never dull your gifts. You never speak down about yourself to make someone else feel good. You walk in, you don't have to be conceited. You don't have to be prideful. You just be yourself. And half the time, being yourself intimidates people. But that is not your gig. That is not that you are too much of something. It's that they're lacking of
Yeah,
many.
I agree. I
So
agree. I even see that in myself when somebody's intimidated, when I feel intimidated or angry or annoyed by somebody, I have to pull it back in, and it's still shit that I'm working on.
you
Still
have
to this
to,
day.
because it's not nobody's fault that you're slacking on your shit. You know, Com- competition, it's always going to be, but we shouldn't, especially writers, we shouldn't compete over whose writing is better than the next. Our writing, they're all phenomenal. They're just different because they're coming from different voices. And that's where and I meet people and they're like, oh, so and so wrote that book, and that's how just the thing is. What I'm saying is, we can be whoever we are. I will listen to your story, and it reaches a point where I keep hearing and it's redundant. It's giving me a headache now. My ears are screeching because my spirit is saying, get me the hell out of here. I'm gonna stop you. Why? Because I must choose me in order to choose you. I must choose me. You will not pick me. I choose me, and then I choose where my surroundings. Now, when we're guided by the Holy Spirit, we're going to be somewhere we don't want to be. Guess what's going to happen? It's an assignment, and you better do well in it. And then you move on. But sometimes you will, like, why am I a magnet for all these people who don't believe in God? I've met so many people who don't believe in God. Not so. Let me tell you about my God. I never force them. But then you meet a lot of people who are such victims, and and this did this and this, and I'm like all my life. But you know what? We are called to do certain things. That's that innate ability that you got to recognize in you. It's not always going to be rainbows and sunshine. We all have bad, like negative qualities, and they need to come out on certain assigned times. So you can't, it's like the ego. When people say kill the ego, no, nurture your ego. All I'm saying is you are the best you to ever exist on this planet because you were created the way you are. Did we pick up bad habits along the way? Absolutely. We did. Could we recognize those habits and then start dis- dissipating them? Absolutely. Things take time. Things take time. We got to unlearn a lot of damage that we not only learned, but we used it as shoes and kept it on until the soles are still. Now the soles of those shoes have holes in it, and we still can't let them go because it's what we know. It's comfort. It got us through whatever. But you know what? Little by little, it's like a withdrawal from heroin. You got to withdraw from the life that led you astray, and having that innate ability or checking back in or just releasing the lid and letting it flow out. Do whatever it got to take for you to connect with that innate ability that is going to guide you where you need to be,
Oh,
because we all have that gift. We all have it. We all possess it. And if you don't know what it looks like, talk to somebody who you believe is there, or that you know is there. Talk to somebody. How do I recognize this? It's the same thing as the question that's so simple. Are you happy? Sometimes we need to say, how do I see it? How do I know it's there? What does it come dressed as? You
you
know?
said
Go
you
ahead.
said you said something that was really pivotal. Going back, like going back. Don't think of it as like if you have to go back to go forward, do not think of it as a bad thing. We sometimes have to unlearn the stuff that we learned incorrectly and then relearn it the right way and then go from there. So don't, if you have to take that step back and really like look at what your life has become and then to understand your innate abilities, then do it. Don't think of it as a bad thing. And I've had to do that, and it was the greatest thing in the world. I didn't even think of it as a bad thing because I was so focused on figuring out what the hell I keep creating, like bringing these people into my life. I've got to figure this out. I'm the only common denominator here. So I had to go back. But for some people, it's really hard to go back to say, well, I don't want to go backwards. I just want to keep moving forwards. Well, it's like in a really gross way, but sometimes people have broken a leg and they get the cast on and they go to the doctor 12 weeks later, they get in and they're saying, I'm still in pain. The doctor looks at an x-ray and says it didn't heal proproperly. So I hate to say this, but we have to actually re-break your leg and reset it. And who the hell wants to do that? Because that's a hell of a lot more painful than the first break you had. But that's the way it had to be done. So they broke it, reset it, and now it was back to normal. So sometimes we have to go back and deal with more pain just to get us back on course. So thank you.
Absolutely, because sometimes we need to be reminded because we've grown so accustomed to it. But you had that thing up. Yes, Sylvia, the ego is filled with anxiety, which makes us act impulsive or holds us back from behaving a certain way. When you feed your spirit kindness and gratitude and you nurture the ego from the anxiety, which is anxiety is the fear that we place upon ourselves to make all the decision to lead us astray from what our purpose of birth is. So the ego, yeah, although in this conversation, it's not, I didn't put it in there because of what we're talking about, but it's just as important. When you are malnourished of the soul, that's because you're not feeding your spirit properly, nor nurturing your ego. And we need to do that in order to figure out, who am I? This is what I want to do. How do I get to do that? And then you answer all the questions that the badass Buddha just put out there. We need to believe in something bigger than us in order to understand why we exist, because we're not accidents. So let's work on that, those innate abilities. And if you don't know what they are, look it up. Look it up. I mean, replay this video. I mean, write things down about yourself, because just the way us coaches, as Sylvia said, that's our job as coaches, is to ask those questions, to plant those seeds. You are the farmer of your crop. You're not going to go into the dollar store and buy seeds that are no name brand, or you don't even know what type of seeds they are. You know, you're going to do your research and discover what it is you need to plant to grow this harvest that is going to nourish you. And that is you. That is your spirit. That is your soul. That is your mind. That is the empathy towards that heart. So you are the farmer to that crop. You will reap what you sow. So the question is, aside from are you happy, is are you worth it?
Yeah.
Are you worth it? And with that, we are way over.
Yeah, but we are.
Thank you for staying on. I mean, thank you for staying on, Sylvia. Thank you. And this is what we need. Iris, thank you. We need that back and forth, because we need to stir. You know, when you pour ingredients, and if you're making your sauce, and you pour the oregano and the black pepper and the garlic and you just leave it there, when you go to serve it, the only thing that's going to have flavor is where you poured it on, where you sprinkled it on. You need to stir it. You need to stir it while it's simmering, and you stir it and it all comes together. That's what you need to do to you. Stir these thoughts, stir them up, mix them up, and let the negative ones just find a way out. Fill it, feed it, nurture it. Learn who you are.
Perfect. Beautiful way to end. Well, all right. So get ready for next week. It's called Work It Girl. We're going to talk about how you must do the work. And our last day will be asking the right questions. So we're going to leave you with asking the right questions as we move into the month of belief. So thank you so much, everybody. Have an absolutely beautiful weekend. And from the Badass Buddha, remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
Yes, and Giovanni De Gregorio, this is my friend I met in the Camino Santiago in 2017, and I love when Italy is in the house. Amici, mi gente, remember, breathe in the beauty and breathe out the bullshit. Namaste.